trolleys going if anybody wants anything else.
Will you go, Fly?
Cyril.
In the year of 1609, science's lights began to shine. At Padua city in a modest house, Galileo Galilei set out to prove the sun is on the moon. The sun is on the moon. The earth is on the moon. The earth is on the
Where did you get that thing?
A coachman brought it.
Who sent it?
He said at the Court of Naples.
I don't want their stupid presents. Illuminated manuscripts, a statue of Hercules the size of an elephant. They never send money.
But isn't this an astronomical instrument, Mr. Galilei?
Oh, it's an antique, too. An expensive toy.
What's it for?
It's a map of the sky according to the wise men of ancient Greece. We'll try and sell it to the university. They still teach it there.
How does it work, sir?
Oh, it's complicated.
I think I could understand it.
Maybe. Let's begin at the beginning. Description?
There are a lot of metal rings.
How many?
8.
Correct. And?
There are words painted on them.
What words?
The names of the stars.
Such as?
Well, here's a band with the sun on it. And on the inside band is the moon.
Those metal bands represent 8 crystal spheres, like huge glass globes, one inside the other. The stars are supposed to be tacked onto them. Spin the band with the sun on it. You see the fixed ball right in the middle?
Yes.
That's the Earth. For 2,000 years, man has chosen to believe that the sun and all the host of stars revolve about him. The Pope, the cardinals, the princes, the scholars, the merchants, and the fishwives have all pictured themselves squatting in the middle of an affair like that.
Locked up inside?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a cage.
So you felt that too. But we are pulling out of that old contraption now.
How?
I'd like to think the ships began it. They used to hug the shore. Then all of a sudden they left the coast and launched out onto the oceans. All sorts of things were set in movement, including the minds of men. It was the opening of a new age. In Siena, when I was a young man, I saw some masons trying to lift a block of granite. After talking it over for just 5 minutes, they ditched a method that had been in use for centuries and found a new, more efficient way of applying the ropes.
I remember thinking then, the millennium of faith is ended. This is the millennium of doubt.
Everything is called in doubt today. Everybody at last wants to know, why is this, how's that? That's what the books say, but let's see for ourselves. I predict that in our time astronomy will become the talk of the marketplace, and that the sons of fishwives will go to school. And with any luck, they'll learn that the earth rolls round the sun, and that the Pope, the cardinals, the princes, the scholars, the merchants, and the fishwives, their mothers, are rolling with it. The stars must now positively be regarded as spinning rocks hurtling through darkness. It seems clear. This star we live on moves at an inconceivable speed, but are we frightened? No, we are in favor. What does the poet say, Andrea? Oh, early morning.
Oh, early morning of beginnings. Oh, breath of winds that cometh from new shores. But I can see with my own eyes that the sun comes up in one place in the morning and goes down in a different place in the evening. It doesn't stand still. I can see it.
You see nothing. All you do is gawk. Gawking is not seeing. No, that's the sun. Sit down. Where's the sun? On your right or on your left?
On my left.
And how could it get to the right?
By your putting it there, of course.
Of course. Now, where's the sun?
On my right.
And did it move?
No, I did.
Wrong, stupid. The chair moved.
But I was on it.
Of course. The chair's the earth, and you are sitting on it.
What are you doing with my son, Mr. Galileo?
Mother, you don't understand.
And I suppose you do. Last night he tried to tell me a feather falls as fast as a cannonball.
We seem to be on the threshold of a new era, Mrs. Sarti.
Well, I hope we can pay the milkman in this new era. A young gentleman is here to take private lessons, and he's well dressed, so don't frighten him away like you did the others. Wasting your time with Andrea. How many times have I told you not to wheedle free lessons out of Mr. Galileo? He can't afford it.
Could I finish my milk, even if it isn't paid for? Andrea, I shouldn't talk about our ideas outside.
Why not?
Certain authorities won't like it.
Why not if it's the truth?
The universe of the new astronomers is still not much more than a framework of guesses, so...
I want to be an astronomer.
This house is like a marketplace.
Good morning, sir. My name is Ludovico Marsili.
Hold it. You came by way of Holland, and your family owns property in the Campania. Private lessons, 10 scudi a month.
That's all right, of course, sir.
What's your subject?
Horses.
Oh, in that case, 15 scudi a month.
That's all right.
Andrea.
You'll have to be patient with me, sir. Science makes no sense to me. Take that tube affair I saw in Amsterdam. It had a green leather casing and 2 pieces of glass, one at each end. One bulged and the other was like that. As far as I can see, one reduces, the other enlarges. Any normal person would expect them to cancel each other out, but they didn't. Things look 5 times as large as life.
What sort of things did they enlarge?
Church steeples, pigeons, boats, anything at a distance.
Did you look through it yourself?
Yes, sir.
And the tube had 2 lenses. Was it like this?
Yes, but...
A recent invention?
It must be. They only started peddling it on the streets a few days before I left Holland.
Why do you bother your head with science? Why don't you just breed horses?
My mother says science is necessary nowadays. For conversation.
Why not try Latin or theology?
I'll see you on Tuesday afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Don't look at me like that. I took him, didn't I?
I caught your eye just in time. The treasurer of the university is here to see you. Mr. Priuli?
Good morning, Mr. Galileo.
Good morning, Priuli. Lend me a scooter. Sarti, give this to Andrea. Tell him to run to the spectacle maker and bring me 2 lenses. Here are the measurements.
Mr. Galileo, I have come to return your petition for an increase in salary. Unfortunately, I am unable to recommend your request.
My dear sir, how can I be expected to make ends meet on 500 scudi?
What about your private students?
I spend my time teaching. When am I to learn?
My particular science is on the threshold of important discoveries.
Here are my findings on the laws of falling bodies. That should be worth 200 scudi more.
Any paper of yours is of infinite worth, Mr. Galileo.
I was limiting it to 200.
If you want money and leisure, go to Florence. I've no doubt the Medici would be glad to subsidize you. Eventually, however, you will be forbidden to think in the name of the Inquisition. No, you're happy here in the Republic of Venice, but you need money. It's only human. May I suggest a simple solution? Our city elders are businessmen. No. Why don't you invent something useful that will bring them in a little profit? Remember that chart you made for the army? Even General Stefano Gritti could extract cube roots with it. Now, that was practical.
Bosh.
It astounded the chiefs of staff.
I see. Priuli? I may have something for you. I haven't quite got there yet.
You are a great man. A discontented man, but I've always said you were a great man.
My discontent, Priuli, is what you should be paying me for if you had any sense. And for the most part, it's dissatisfaction with myself. I'm 46 years of age, and I've achieved nothing that satisfies me.
I won't disturb you any further.
Thank you. Good morning.
One scudo wasn't enough. I had to leave in my jacket before he'd let me take them away.
How will you get through the winter without a jacket? We'll get it back someday. Give them to me.
What are they for?
Well, something for the Senate. Yeah. Come and look.
I can read the writing on the bell in the Campanile. Gratia Dei.
Get out of the way.
No one's virtue is complete. Great Galileo likes to eat. You will not resent, we hope, the truth about his telescope.
Gentlemen of the Senate, gentlemen of the Arsenal of Venice, as professor of mathematics at your University of Padua and chief engineer in your great arsenal, your obedient servant has always counted it his privilege to offer you such discoveries and inventions as might prove lucrative to the manufacturers and merchants of our Venetian Republic. Thus, I tender you this, my optical tube or telescope, manufactured in your great arsenal and constructed on the most scientific and Christian principles, the product of 17 years patient research. Waste of time, Segredo.
You'll be able to pay the butcher, old friend?
Yes, they'll make money out of it.
Gentlemen, our republic can congratulate itself. Not only because this new acquisition will be another feather in the cap of Venice, not only because our own Mr. Galileo has so generously handed over this fresh product of his teeming brain entirely to you, so that you can manufacture as many of these highly saleable articles as you please. But, gentlemen, has it also occurred to you that with the help of this remarkable new instrument, the enemy fleet will be visible to us a full 2 hours before we are visible to them? And now, gentlemen, Mr. Galileo entreats you to accept the instrument from the hands of his charming daughter, Virginia.
I don't know that I can go through with this farce. You do realize it's more than a money-making gadget. I turned it on the moon last night. Astronomy has been held back for 3 generations for lack of a thing like this.
Mr. Galileo. It's extraordinary. I can see the fortifications of Santa Rosita.
What about the moon? For one thing, it doesn't give off any light of its own.
Good heavens! I shall have to tell my wife to stop bathing on the roof. A thing like this is worth 10 scudi apiece.
Father, here's Ludovico to congratulate you.
Congratulations, sir.
I improved it.
Yes, sir, I see you had it covered in red.
Do you know what the Milky Way is made of?
No.
I do.
Congratulations, Mr. Galileo. Your extra 500 scudi a year are secure.
Oh, of course, the 500 scudi.
Isn't it a pity a great republic always has to find a pretext to reward its great men?
What incentive would great men have otherwise? Mr. Galileo.
Congratulations, Mr. Galileo.
Well done. Well done, sir.
That's marvelous.
Did I do it all right?
Seemed all right to me.
I think they're pleased with Father.
I think I'm beginning to understand something about science.
January 10, 1610. Galileo Galilei abolishes heaven.
edge of the crescent is jagged. All along the dark part, near the shiny crescent, bright particles of light keep appearing, one after the other, and growing larger, and finally merge with the bright crescent.
How do you explain those spots of light, my friend?
It can't be true.
It is true. The high mountains, Segredo.
On the moon?
Yes. Gigantic mountains. The spots of light are peaks catching the rising sun. The slopes of the mountains are still dark. If you look again, you can see the sunlight moving down from the peaks into the valleys.
But this gives the lie to all the astronomy that's been taught for the last 2,000 years.
Yes, what you're seeing now has been seen by no other man beside myself.
But the moon can't be an Earth with mountains and valleys like our own, any more than the Earth can be a planet.
The moon is an Earth with mountains and valleys. And the Earth is a planet, simply another heavenly body, one among thousands. As the moon appears to us, so we appear to the moon. From the moon, the Earth looks sometimes like a crescent, sometimes like a half globe, sometimes a full globe, and sometimes it's not visible at all.
Galileo, this is frightening.
I've discovered something else. Something even more astonishing.
There it is. Your miraculous optical tube. Do you know this product of 17 years of patient research will be on sale tomorrow for 2 scudi apiece? The telescope. Down at the harbor at this very moment, a ship from Holland is unloading a full cargo of them. What have you to say? When I think of the poor gentlemen of Venice who thought they were getting exclusive rights, why, when they took their first look through the glass, it was only by the merest chance they didn't see a peddler 7 times enlarged selling tubes exactly like it on the street corner.
Mr. Prioli, with the help of this instrument, Mr. Galileo has made discoveries that will revolutionize our conception of the universe.
Mr. Galileo has provided the town with a first-rate water pump. The irrigation works you designed function splendidly. How was I to expect this?
Not so fast, Priuli. I may be on the track of a sensational gadget. Certain of the stars appear to have regular movements. If there were a clock in the sky, it could be seen from anywhere. That might be useful to your ship owners. Hmm?
No, I won't listen to you. I listened to you before. And as a reward for my friendship, you made me the laughing stock of the town. Oh, yes, you can laugh. You've got your money. But let me tell you this. You have destroyed my faith in a lot of things, Mr. Galileo. This world makes me sick.
He's almost human when he's angry. Did you hear? A world where you can't do business makes him sick.
Did you know about these Dutch instruments?
I'd heard about them, but the one I made for the arsenal was twice as good as any Dutchman's. Besides, I needed the money. How can I work with a tax collector on the doorstep? And my poor daughter will never acquire a husband unless she has a dowry. Besides, I like books, all kinds of books, and you know I don't think well unless I eat well. I get my best ideas over a good meal and a bottle of wine. If only I could have 5 years to do nothing but research.
What about Copernicus's theory that the Earth rotates around the sun?
I noticed something through the telescope on Tuesday, which might prove a step towards even that. There are 4 lesser stars near Jupiter. I happened on them on Monday, but didn't take any particular note of their position. On Tuesday, I looked again. I could have sworn they'd moved. I've recorded their positions. Now, they've changed again. Tell me what you see.
I see 3.
Where's the 4th? Here are the charts. Let's get down to work. The 4th must have moved round behind Jupiter where we can't see it. That means there's a small star revolving round a big star.
Jupiter can't be fixed to anything if there's another star revolving round it. Where are the crystal spheres now that the stars are supposed to be fixed to?
Nowhere. There's no scaffolding in the sky. There's nothing holding the universe up. Don't stand there like a stockfish, as if you are afraid it isn't true.
I'm not standing like a stockfish. I'm trembling because I'm afraid it is true.
Why?
What do you think is going to happen to you when you say that there's another sun with other Earths revolving round it? That this Earth is a planet and not the center of the universe? And that there's nothing but stars? No difference between Earth and heaven. No heaven at all. Where's God then?
What do you mean?
God. Where is God?
Not out there, any more than he'd be down here if somebody out there came down to look for him.
Where is he then?
I'm a mathematician, not a theologian.
You're a human being. Where is God in your system of the universe?
Inside us, or nowhere.
10 years ago, a man was burned at the stake for saying that.
Giordano Bruno spoke too soon. He'd never have been burned if he could have backed up what he said with proof.
Do you really believe that proof makes any difference?
All the difference in the world. I believe in man, and that means I believe in reason. Without that belief, I wouldn't have the strength to get out of bed in the morning.
How can you mistake man's contemptible cunning for reason?
I know they call a donkey a horse when they want to sell it, and a horse a donkey when they want to buy it. But is that the whole story? If I were to drop a stone and tell people it didn't fall, do you think they'd accept it? No. The seduction of proof is too strong. In the long run, no one can resist it.
Good morning, Father.
Up so early?
I'm going to Matins with Mrs. Sarti. Ludovico's coming too. How was the night, Father?
Clear?
May I look through the tube?
What for? It isn't a toy.
I know that, Father. What did you find?
Some little specks by the side of a big star. I must find a way of drawing attention to them. Perhaps I'll call them the Medicean stars to please the Duke of Florence. By the way, we may move to Florence. I've written to His Highness asking if he can use me as court mathematician.
Shall we live at court, Father?
Galileo.
My dear Sagredo, I must have time to work out my proof, and I need my comforts My only worry is the Duke may not take me.
Surely he'll take you, Father, with those new stars.
I'm not used to writing letters to important people. Do you think this will do?
With this, I commend myself as one of your most faithful and devoted servants, whose chief desire is to bask in the presence of your Highness, the rising sun of our great age. The Duke of Florence is a boy of 9.
I know. I see. You think my letter is too servile. I wonder if it's servile enough. The only way a man like me can land a decent job is by crawling on his belly. Run along to Matins now.
Galileo, don't go to Florence.
Why not?
It's ruled by monks.
There are scholars too.
Lackeys.
I'll take them by a scruff of the neck and make them look through my tube. Even monks can be seduced by proof.
Galileo, you're setting out on the road to disaster. You're suspicious and skeptical in science, but in politics you're as naive as your daughter. How can those in power leave a man at large who tells the truth, even about the remotest stars? Can you see the Pope calmly writing down in his diary, 10th of January, 1610, heaven abolished? A while ago, when you were at your telescope, I saw you tied to the stake. And when you said you believed in proof, I smelled burning flesh.
If they'll have me, I'll go. Your Highness, shall we begin with an observation of the satellites of Jupiter, the Medicean stars?
Sit down here, please.
Thank you, my boy. No, I'm afraid it's not as simple as that. Before we use your celebrated instrument, Mr. Galileo, we beg the favor of a disputation. Subject, can these moons exist?
A formal disputation?
Why don't you just look through the telescope and see for yourselves?
Here, please.
Yes. You are aware that your proposition, that there are stars revolving round some center other than the Earth, that there is nothing holding the universe up, is in contradiction to the wisdom of the ages?
Yes.
Apart from my mathematical friend's reservations as to whether these moons are possible, I, as a philosopher, ask you, are they necessary? Aristoteli, divini, universal.
Shall we speak in everyday language? My colleague, Mr. Fedezoni, doesn't understand Latin.
Does that matter?
Yes.
The debate will be less brilliant, but it's your house. The cosmos of the divine Aristotle, with its crystal spheres and their mystical music, is an edifice of incomparable order and beauty. Why should we go out of our way to look for things which can only strike a discord in that ineffable harmony?
Your Highness, would you care to observe these unnecessary and impossible stars through the telescope?
Mr. Galileo, nobody doubts that your brainchild, or shall we say your adopted brainchild, is brilliantly contrived, but one is tempted to observe that if your tube shows something that cannot exist, it must be a rather unreliable tube.
How's that?
With the utmost deference, Mr. Galileo, I suggest that what one sees in your eyeglass and what is in the heavens might be two entirely different things.
Admirably put. Great restraint.
They think we painted the Medicean stars on the lens.
Are you accusing me of fraud?
Yeah, we wouldn't dream of it in the presence of His Highness.
Is there something wrong with my stars?
Your Highness's stars are fine. The gentlemen are only wondering whether they really exist.
Can you see the claws on the great bear?
Yes, and everything on the bull.
Are you gentlemen going to look or not?
Certainly.
What's the matter with you?
They're stupid.
What a deplorable child.
Your Highness, I have just received an important message. I think we should go at once.
Gentlemen, the sum of our knowledge is pitiful. It has been my singular good fortune to get hold of a new instrument that brings a small patch of the universe a little bit closer. It's at your disposal. Make use of it.
Your Highness, ladies and gentlemen, where is all this leading?
Are we as scholars concerned with where the truth might lead us?
Mr. Galileo, the truth might lead us anywhere.
Your Highness, these nights, all over Italy, telescopes are being turned on the sky. The moons of Jupiter have never been seen before, and yet they exist. The man in the street may conclude that a good many other things may exist if only he opens his eyes. Gentlemen, we oughtn't to be defending shaky doctrines.
You are teachers. You ought to be doing the shaking.
I wish your man would keep out of what is supposed to be a scientific debate.
Your Highness, it looks as if we have to go to the shipyards nowadays to find the high curiosity that was the glory of Greece.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Galileo will find admirers in the shipyards.
Your Highness, I find this highly informative discussion has exceeded the time we allowed for it. It is imperative that we leave at once.
What of my cakes, Your Highness?
But you need only to look through the telescope.
His Highness will, of course, seek the opinion of the greatest living authority, Christopher Clavius, astronomer-in-chief at the Papal College in Rome.
Things take indeed a wondrous turn when learned men do stoop to learn. Clavius, we are pleased to say, upheld Galileo.
Is there anything in the world that people won't believe?
Yes, Monsignor, that you don't love your belly.
Oh, they believe that. They only won't believe what's good for them. They doubt the devil, but fill them up with a lot of fiddle-dee-dee about the earth rolling in the gutter like a marble, and they swallow it hook, line, and sinker. Sancta simplicity.
Oh, the earth's going round too quickly. May I hold on to you, Professor?
Someone else been at the bottle again.
Venus is listing badly. I can only see half of her behind.
Help! Hope we don't get thrown onto the moon. All those nasty, sharp mountain peaks.
Look down.
Oh, we can't have skinny people in Holy Rome.
What does the Bible say? Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. Can the sun come to a standstill if it doesn't ever move? Does the Bible lie?
How did Christopher Clavius, the greatest astronomer alive, get mixed up in an investigation of this kind?
He's in there, with his eyes glued to that diabolical instrument.
Mr. Galileo, I think something just fell down.
Are you sure, Monsignor, that it didn't fall up?
Insolence.
Aren't they out yet? Can't they reach a decision in this paltry matter? Christopher Clavius ought to know his astronomy after all these years. I hear this Mr. Galilei transfers mankind from the center of the universe to somewhere in the outskirts. This Mr. Galilei is therefore an enemy to mankind and must be dealt with as such. Is it conceivable that God would trust the most precious fruit of his labor to some mere flippity-gibbet of a star? Would he have sent his son to such a place? How can men be so perverse as to listen to something that's told them by some slave of the multiplication table?
The gentleman is over there.
So you're the man. Yeah, my eyes are not what they were, but I can see you bear a striking resemblance to the man we burned. What was his name?
Your Eminence, the doctor said you mustn't excite yourself.
So to have degraded the earth, in spite of the fact that you live by her and receive everything from her, well, I won't have it. I won't be a nobody on some nondescript star, twirling briefly hither and thither. I tread the earth, and the earth is firm beneath my feet. It stands still, and is the center of the universe, and I am in the center, and the eye of the Creator is upon me. About me, fixed to the crystal spheres, revolve the lesser lights of the stars, and the great light of the sun, created to illumine me that God might see me. Man, the supreme work of God, a central figure, in his own image, created he him immortal
Your Eminence, you have overtaxed yourself.
Your Eminences, Father Clavius.
He is right.
Father Clavius says, it's up to the theologians now to set the heavens right again. You've won.
What is this? His Eminence the Cardinal Inquisitor.
When Galileo was in Rome, the cardinal asked him to his home, and dined and wined him as his guest. He only made one small request.
I won't dance with anyone but you, Ludovico.
You're showing some lace.
Father, feel my heart.
Oh, it's thumping.
Oh, I want to look beautiful.
You'd better. If you don't, they'll start saying all over again that the earth doesn't turn.
It doesn't turn, sir.
I was to wait here for Cardinal Bellarmine. His Eminence will be with you in a few minutes.
Mr. Galileo.
This is an honor, Signor Galileo.
Congratulations. Thank you. Run along and enjoy yourselves. Rome. Big party.
250 guests, Mr. Galilei. The first carnival after the years of the plague. All the great families of Italy are represented here this evening. The Orsinis, the Granottis, the Tassis,
Cesarinis,
the Guidis, the Lastricatis. Ah, their Eminences Cardinals Bellarmine and Barberini.
Your Eminence?
Mr. Galilei, Cardinal Barberini.
Your Eminence.
The sun also ariseth, and the sun goeth down and hasteth to his place where he arose. Thus says Solomon. What says Galilei?
Your Eminence. When I was so high, I remember standing on a ship, and when it pulled off, I shouted, "The shore is moving away." But I know now it was the ship that was moving away from the shore.
You can't catch him. Unfortunately for me, I glanced at a few papers on astronomy once, and it's harder to get rid of than the itch.
We must move with the times, Barberini. If it makes navigation easier to use new charts based upon a new hypothesis, let's use them. We need only Scotch doctrines that contradict Holy Writ.
Holy Writ. He that withholdeth corn, the people shall curse him. Proverbs.
A prudent man concealeth knowledge. Proverbs.
Where no oxen are, the crib is clean. But much increase is by the strength of the ox.
He that ruleth his spirit is better than he that taketh a city.
The broken spirit drieth the bones. Doth not wisdom cry?
Can one go upon hot coals and his feet not be burned? Welcome to Rome, friend Galilei. You will recall the story of the founding of the city. Two little boys found shelter and sustenance with a she-wolf. And from that day we've paid the price for the she-wolf's milk. But the place is not bad. And we have everything for your pleasure, from a scholarly debate with my friend Bellarmine to ladies of international repute. Would you like to meet one? No. He prefers a serious discussion. Very well. Are you sure, friend Galilei, that you astronomers aren't just trying to make astronomy easier for yourselves? You speak in terms of circles, ellipses, and uniform velocities, simple movements that the human mind can grasp, very convenient. But suppose Almighty God had taken it into his head to make the stars move like that. What would become of your calculations then?
Your Eminence, If God had created the world like this, he would have made our minds like this too, so that we could grasp it. I believe in reason.
I consider reason inadequate. He's too polite to tell me he considers mine inadequate. What is one to do with him? Butter wouldn't melt in his mouth. All he wants to prove is that God made a few mistakes in astronomy. God didn't work hard enough before he composed Holy Writ. My dear friend, don't put anything down. This is a scientific discussion among friends.
Don't you think it likely the Creator knows more about his work than the created?
Man may misread not only the heavenly bodies, but the Bible as well.
The interpretation of the Bible is a matter for the ministers of God. You don't answer? Tonight, the Holy Office has decided that the theory of Copernicus, according to which the Earth moves round the sun, is false, absurd, and heretical. I am charged, Mr. Galileo, to admonish you to relinquish this opinion. Would you repeat that?
His Eminence Cardinal Bellarmine to the aforesaid Galileo Galilei. The Holy Office has decided that the theory of Copernicus, according to which the Earth goes round the sun, is foolish, absurd, and heretical. I am charged, Mr. Galilei, to admonish you to relinquish this opinion.
What does this mean? The Collegium Romanum confirmed my observations.
Yes, they were most complimentary to you.
But the satellites of Jupiter, the phases of Venus.
The Holy Office formulated its decree without taking these particulars into account.
In other words, the future of all scientific research is completely
assured, Mr. Galileo. It is not given to man to know the truth, but it is granted him to seek after the truth. Science is the legitimate and beloved daughter of the Church. She must have confidence in the Church.
Be realistic, friend Galilei, and so shall we. We need you more than you need us.
Barberini, it's time we introduced Italy's most discussed scientist to our guests.
Let's put on our masks. Oh, poor Galilei hasn't got one.
Did you get his last sentence?
Yes, have you got what he said about believing in reason?
Did the interview take place?
Well, my daughter, may I congratulate you on your betrothal. Your young man comes from a distinguished family. Will you be staying on in Rome?
Not now, Your Eminence. I must return home for the wedding.
So you're accompanying your father back to Florence. That should please him. Mathematics is a cold housewife. Your youth and warmth will keep him down to earth. Oh, it's easy to get lost up there.
He doesn't talk to me about the stars, Your Eminence.
No. They don't eat fish in the fisherman's house. Oh, I can tell you something about astronomy. It seems, my child, that God has blessed our modern astronomers with imagination. Oh, it's getting quite alarming. Compared to their picture of the world, our old picture is like a mere miniature, such as might hang round the neck of a charming young lady. The gentlemen of the Holy Office are worried that a prelate or even a cardinal might get lost in such enormous spaces. The Almighty might even lose sight of the Pope himself. Yes, it's all most amusing. Even so, my child, I'm glad to know that you will be staying with your eminent father, whom we all hold in the highest esteem. I wonder, do I know your father confessor?
Father Giacomo of St. Ursula's in Florence, Your Eminence.
My dear child, your father will need you. Not so much now, perhaps, but one of these days. You are pure. And there is strength in purity. Greatness is sometimes, indeed often, too heavy a burden for those to whom God has granted it. What man is so great? He has no place in a prayer. But I'm keeping you. Your fiancé is going to Germany. And I'm afraid that your father will never forgive me for holding forth to you about astronomy. And remember me to Father Giacomo.
Galileo, pilgrim, a young monk came to visit him. The monk was born of common folk. It was of science that they spoke.
Mr. Galileo? My name is Fulgencio. I'm a student of physics. For 3 nights I have been unable to sleep. I can't reconcile the decree of the Holy Office which I've read with the satellites of Jupiter which I've seen. So this morning I decided to perform Mass and then come to see you.
To tell me Jupiter has no moons.
No. The decree has shocked me into realizing that unrestricted research is dangerous. I've decided to give up astronomy. But first I felt I had to tell you my reasons.
Such reasons are familiar to me.
You mean, of course, certain pressures exerted by the church. But there is something else. I'd like to talk to you about my family. I don't come from the great city. My parents are peasants in the Campagna. They know about growing olives, but not much about anything else. Often these days, as I observe the phases of Venus, I can see my mother and father and sister sitting by the stove at home, under rafters blackened by the smoke of centuries. I can see the spoons in their roughened hands. They're very poor. But underlying their poverty, there is a sort of order, routine, rhythm. My father's back wasn't bowed all at once, but little by little each year. Regularly, year after year, childbearing made my mother more and more sexless. What gives them the strength to sweat with loaded baskets up the stony paths, to bear children, even to eat, is the sense of stability, of necessity, which they get from the sight of the trees turning green every year, from the sight of the soil, and the little church. They've been told the eye of God is on them, and that the whole pageant of the world was written around them that they might be saved. Or what would they say if I told them that they're living on a little chunk of stone spinning in empty space around a second-rate star? What would be the use of their patience then, of their acquiescence in their misery? What comfort would there be in Holy Scripture which demonstrates the necessity of their submission and their sweat, if Holy Scripture is shown to be full of error? No, they'd feel they'd been cheated. I can see their eyes waver. I can see them put down their spoons on the table. Hunger is just going without food, not a test of strength, they'd say. Effort is just bending and carrying, not a virtue. So can you wonder if I see in the decree of the Holy Office a noble and motherly compassion, a great magnanimity?
Well, at least you found out that the crux of the matter is not the satellites of Jupiter, but the peasants of the Campania. And don't talk to me about the beauty that radiates from suffering. Do you know how a pearl develops in an oyster? A jagged grain of sand gets inside the oyster shell and makes its life unbearable. The oyster exudes slime to cover the grain of sand, and that eventually hardens into a pearl. The oyster nearly dies in the process. To hell with the pearl, give me the healthy oyster. Virtues are not the monopoly of poverty. If your parents were prosperous and happy, they could develop the virtues of happiness and prosperity. Do you want me to lie to your people?
We must be silent from the highest of motives, the inward peace of less fortunate souls.
If I condoned this decree and left your parents undisturbed, my motives might not be entirely disinterested. Easy life, no persecution, and so on. Would you like to see a Cellini timepiece that Cardinal Bellarmine's coachman delivered here this morning? And as a reward for leaving your mother and father's peace untroubled, the government offers me the wine they produce by the sweat of their brow. The brow which, as you know, was made in God's image.
Mr. Galileo, I am a priest.
You're also a physicist. And you can see that Venus has phases. How can new machinery be evolved to control rivers if physicists are forbidden to study the greatest machinery of all, the mechanism of the stars? Can I reconcile my findings on the paths of falling bodies with the tracks of witches riding on broomsticks?
You don't think that truth, if it is truth, would make its way without us?
No. Truth prevails only as far as we make it prevail. You speak about the Campania peasants as if there were moss on their huts. If they don't rouse themselves and learn to think, the best irrigation systems in the world can't help them. I can see their divine patience, but where's their divine wrath?
They're tired.
Are you a physicist? Here is what draws the ocean when it ebbs and flows. Let it lie there. Thou shalt not read. Already. You are a physicist. An apple of the tree of knowledge. He can't wait. He wolfs it down. He'll rot in hell for all eternity, and yet look at him. Where are his manners? Sometimes I think I would willingly be imprisoned in a dungeon fathoms under the earth if in exchange I could find out one thing. What is light? And the worst of it is, when I find something out, I have to tell others about it. Like a lover, like a drunkard, like a traitor.
I don't understand this sentence.
I'll explain it to you, Fulgangio. I'll explain it to you.
For 8 long years with tongue in cheek, of what he knew he did not speak. Then temptation grew too great, and Galileo challenged fate.
Thursday. Floating bodies. Again. So, ice, bowl of water, scales, iron, needle. Aristotle.
Ludovico likes entertaining. This is for the long dining table. It's got to be perfect. His mother notices every stitch. She's not too happy about Father's books, any more than Father Giacomo.
Oh, he hasn't written a book for years.
In Rome, a long time ago, a very important ecclesiastic told me things about astronomy.
Virginia, I want to talk to you about your marriage. You're such a young thing. You have no mother. And your father just puts pieces of ice on water. A marriage is too serious a business. I wouldn't ask your father questions about your marriage. He always says such dreadful things. And always at mealtimes when the young men are there. He hasn't half a scooter's worth of shame in him. Never has had. I'm thinking of what the future has in store. I think you should go to see a real astronomer at the university and have him cast your horoscope so you know where you stand. What are you laughing at?
Because I've been already.
Tell me.
Well, I've got to be very careful for the next 3 months because the sun is in Aries. But after that I get a very favourable ascendant and the clouds will part. And as long as I don't lose sight of Jupiter, I may go on any journey I please because I'm in Aries.
And Ludovico?
He's a Leo. That means sensual, I think.
I know that step. It's Mr. Gaffoni, director.
Miss Galileo.
Mr. Gaffoni.
Just thought I'd bring you a book that might interest your father. It's about the great issue of the moment. Oh, for heaven's sake, don't disturb Mr. Galileo. I can't help feeling that every minute taken from that great man is a minute stolen from Italy. Now just put the book into your little hands and disappear on tiptoe.
Afternoon.
Thank you.
What's that about?
I don't know. Demaculis and
It's on the sunspots. A new one. Listen to the dedication. To the greatest living authority on physics, Galileo Galilei. I read Fabricius' paper the other day. He thinks the spots are clusters of planets between us and the sun.
Isn't that doubtful, Mr. Galilei?
In Paris and Prague, they think they're vapors from the sun. Federzoni has his doubts.
Oh, leave me out. I said, that's all. How can I doubt anything? I'm the lens grinder. I grind lenses, you use them. You observe the heavens, and what you see is not sunspots, but maculis. Don't discuss these new things in front of me. I can't read the books. It's Latin.
There is happiness in doubting. I wonder why.
Aren't we going to take this up, sir? Every sunny day for the last fortnight, I've gone up to the attic. A thin beam of light comes down through a crack in the tiles. With it, you can catch a reverse image of the sun on a piece of paper. On the image, I could see a little blurred spot that moved. Why don't we investigate those spots, Mr. Galilei?
At the moment, we are investigating floating bodies.
Mother has whole baskets full of letters. All Europe wants your opinion. With the reputation you've built up, you can't be silent.
Rome has allowed me to build up a reputation because of being silent.
Well, I don't see how you can afford to be silent any longer.
I can't afford to be roasted on a wood fire like a ham.
You think the sunspots may have something to do with that game? All right, we'll stick to fiddling about with bits of ice. That can't hurt you.
Exactly. Our proposition.
All things that are lighter than water float. All things that are heavier sink.
What does Aristotle say?
Discus latus platusque.
Translate, Fulganzio.
A broad, flat disk of ice floats in water, whereas an iron needle sinks.
Why then, according to Aristotle, doesn't ice sink?
Because being broad and flat, it cannot divide the water.
Very well. I press the ice firmly down to the bottom of the bowl. Now I remove the pressure of my hand. What happened?
It rises to the surface.
Correct. In rising, it seems to be able to divide the water, Fulganzio.
But then why does it float at all? Ice is heavier than water because it is compressed water.
What if it were expanded water?
It must be lighter than water, or it wouldn't float.
Mm-hmm.
Just as an iron needle can't float. All things that are lighter than water float. All things that are heavier sink. QED.
Andrea, you must learn to think carefully. Give me that iron needle. A sheet of paper. Is iron heavier than water?
Yes.
What happened?
It floats. Holy Aristotle! They never checked up on him!
Every time I hear them laugh like that, I feel afraid.
Well, Ludovico! Oh, why didn't you let us know you were coming?
I was near here inspecting our vineyards at Buccioli. I couldn't keep away.
Who's that?
Ludovico.
Good day, sir.
Can't you see him?
Let's celebrate. Sarti, bring us a jug of that old Sicilian wine. How are the horses?
The horses are fine, sir.
Fine. Let's sit down. Sit down, Ludovico.
You're looking pale. Country life will do you good. Her mother's planning on September.
I suppose I oughtn't to. Wait a moment, I've something to show you.
I hear as many as 1,000 students come to hear you lecture at the university, sir. What are you working on these days?
Routine stuff. Did you come through Rome?
Yes. Oh, before I forget, Mother sends her congratulations on your restraint. About the fuss in Holland over the sunspots.
Very kind of her.
Christopher Clavius had all Rome by the ears. He said he was afraid this earth round the sun business might crop up again because of these spots.
Clavius is on the same track.
What news from the Holy City other than the hope of new aberrations on my part?
Pope is on his deathbed. Hadn't you heard?
Who do they say is going to be his successor?
They say Barberini.
Barberini.
Mr. Galileo knows Barberini.
Cardinal Barberini is a mathematician.
A scientist in the chair of St. Peter.
We might live to see the day, Fedezoni, when we don't have to look over our shoulders like criminals every time we say 2 and 2 are 4. I like this wine. What do you think of it, Ludovico?
I like it.
I know the hill where it's grown. The slope is steep and stony. The grape almost blue. I'm fond of this wine.
Yes, sir.
There are little shadows in it. It's almost sweet. Just stops short there. Andrea, bring in your contraption.
He's starting on the sunspots. The Pope is convinced the earth stands still, for so the Bible proves. He tries to take it by the ears, and yet, it moves! We might find that the sun turns too. How would you like that, Mr. Marsili?
What's all the excitement?
You're not going to start those hellish goings-on again, Galileo.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Barberini is in the ascendant. Your mother's uneasy, and you've been sent to investigate. Clavius is right. These sunspots do interest me. How do you like my wine, Ludovico?
I told you I liked it, sir.
Do you really like it?
I like it.
What has my astronomy to do with my daughter? The phases of Venus don't affect Virginia's rear end.
That isn't funny, just vulgar. I'll get Virginia.
Mrs. Sutton. Marriage in families like mine is not decided by sexual considerations alone.
Oh, was it the family that kept you from marrying my daughter for 8 years?
My future wife will have to take her place in our village church.
If a bad man's daughter sat in the family pew, it might stop your peasants from paying their rent.
In a way.
The reflector and the screen. We'll throw the image of the sun on it to save our eyes. Andrea, your method...
My mother was positively assured that you'd undertaken not to get mixed up in this earth round the sun's business again, sir.
We had a reactionary pope then.
Had? His Holiness isn't dead yet.
Pretty nearly.
Pretty nearly. 50 times this man will weigh a chip of ice. But when it comes to something that suits him, he believes it blindly.
If His Holiness dies, the new Pope, whoever he turns out to be, will respect the convictions held by the country's leading families.
God made the physical world. God made the human brain. God will allow physics.
Galileo, let me tell you something. I've watched my son fall into sin for the sake of these experiments and theories and observations, and I haven't been able to do anything about it. You set yourself against the authorities, and they gave you a warning. The greatest cardinal spoke to you the way you speak to a sick horse. Well, it worked for a while. But 2 months ago, I caught you sneaking back to your observations. I didn't say anything, but I knew. And I lit a candle to St. Joseph. It's more than I can bear. When we're alone, you show some sense. You say you've got to behave because it's dangerous not to. But 2 days of these experiments and you're as bad as ever. If I lose my eternal salvation because I stand by a heretic, that's my business. But you've no right to trample your daughter's happiness with your big feet.
Uncover the telescope.
Giuseppe, put the luggage back in the coach.
She'll never get over this. You can tell her yourself.
Mr. Galileo, if we Marsilis were to countenance teaching frowned on by the church, it could unsettle our peasants. Don't forget, these poor wretches really get everything mixed up. They're nothing but animals.
Really?
I've seen the day when my poor mother has had to have a dog whipped in front of them to remind them to keep their place.
Oh.
You may occasionally have seen the corn waving from the window of your comfortable coach. You've no doubt nibbled our olives or absent-mindedly eaten our cheese. But you can have no idea how much responsibility that sort of thing is.
What makes you think I ever eat my cheese absent-mindedly? Are we ready?
Yes, sir.
It isn't only dogs you whip to keep discipline, is it, Marsili?
Mr. Galileo, you have a wonderful brain. It's a pity
He's threatening you.
Yes. I might unsettle his peasants, and his housekeeper, and his agents.
That's all right. None of them speak Latin.
I might write in the vernacular for the many, instead of in Latin for the few. What we need for our new ideas is people who work with their hands. Who else wants to know the causes of everything? People who never see bread except on their tables don't want to know how it's baked. The bastards would rather thank God than the baker.
You've made your decision. You'll always be a slave to your passions. Excuse me to Virginia. I think it's as well if I don't see her now.
The dowry is at your disposal at any time.
Dame, and our regards to the Marsilis, who order the earth to stand still so that their castles won't fall off.
And the Guidos, and the Orsinis,
And the Rosellis,
and the Cesarini,
and the Gianottis.
who'll only kiss the Pope's foot as long as he tramples on the people with it.
The new Pope will be an enlightened man.
Now, let's start observing these sunspots at our own risk, not counting too much on the protection of the problematical new Pope.
But fully confident of dispelling the fabricious star shadows and the solar vapors of Paris and Prague, and of proving that the sun rotates.
Andrea, reasonably confident of proving that the sun rotates. My intention is not to prove that I was right, but to find out whether I was right. Turn it on the sun.
I thought you'd been working at it. Do you know when I guessed it? When you didn't recognize Mr. Marsili.
You sent him away.
I've got to know.
When the Almighty made the universe, He made the earth, and next He made the sun. Then round the earth He bade the sun to turn. That's in the Bible, Genesis 1. And since that time, all beings here below were in obedient circles meant to go. Around the cardinals, the bishops, around the bishops, the ministers, around the ministers, the aldermen, around the aldermen, the craftsmen, around the craftsmen, the servants, around the servants, the dogs, the chickens, and the beggars. and said Almighty God was wrong in Genesis chapter 1. And that is, hold my friends, this is no matter small. For heresies could spread at once like bad diseases. Change holy writ, forsooth, what would be left at all? Why, each of us would say and do just as he pleases.
As he pleases. As he pleases.
Good people, what will come to pass if Galileo's teaching spreads? No altar boy will serve the mass. No servant girl will make the beds. Now that is grave, my friends, this is no matter small. An independent spirit spreads like bad diseases. For life is sweet and man is weak, and after all, how good it is just for a change to do just as one pleases.
As one pleases.
As one pleases.
The carpenters take wood and build their houses, not the church's pews. The members of the Cobblers' Guild now boldly walk the streets in shoes. The tenant kicks the noble lord right off his land like that.
The milk the wife once fed the priest now makes at last her children fat. Now that is grave, my friends, this is no matter small. An independent spirit spreads like bad diseases. For life is sweet and man is weak, and after all, how good it is just for a change to do just as one pleases.
As one pleases.
As one pleases.
The Duchess washes her chemise.
The Emperor has to fetch his beer.
His troops make love behind the trees.
Commands they do not hear. Now that I think of it, I feel that I could also use a change. You know, for me, you have appeal. Maybe tonight we could arrange.
No, 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 no! Stop, Galileo, stop! An independent spirit spreads as do diseases. People must keep their place, some down and some on top. Still, it feels good just for a change to do just as one pleases.
As one pleases. As one pleases. Good creatures who have trouble here below.
In serving cruel lords and gentle Jesus,
Who bids you turn the other cheek just so?
while they get set to strike the second blow. Obedience will never cure your woe.
Let each of us get wise and do for once just as he pleases. As he pleases. As he pleases.
Hurry, hurry, hurry! Presenting Galileo's phenomenon, the Earth turning around the sun!
A procession.
Yes,
Will he say your book is heretical?
you hang around church too much. And getting up at dawn and scurrying to mass is ruining your complexion. You pray for me, don't you?
I've been worried. It's that man over there again, the one who's always hanging around the house. Here's Mr. Vanny, the iron founder. The one you designed the furnace for. Don't forget to thank him for the quail he sent us.
How are the quail, Mr. Galileo?
Excellent. Again, many thanks.
They were talking about you upstairs. They say you're responsible for the new crop of pamphlets against the Bible.
I know nothing about pamphlets. Homer and the Bible are my favorite reading.
It doesn't bother me. I'm glad of this chance to tell you that we, the manufacturers, are on your side. I don't know much about the motions of the stars, but you're fighting for the freedom to teach new knowledge. Take that mechanical cultivator in Germany you told me about. I can tell you it'll never be used in this country.
Your opinion carries weight, Bunny.
I hope so. Did you know they have money markets in Amsterdam and London? Here we're not even free to make money. We sink or swim with men like you, Mr. Galileo. If they ever try anything, Mr. Galileo, remember you have friends in every branch of industry. The cities of northern Italy are behind you.
As far as I know, nobody's thinking of harming me.
No.
No.
In my opinion, you'd be better off in Venice. You could put up a fight from there. I have a coach and horses.
I don't see myself as a refugee. I like my comfort.
Yes, but from what I hear, there's an element of time involved. I got the impression they'd be relieved if you were out of Florence just now.
Nonsense. The Duke is my pupil. Not to mention the fact that if anybody tries anything in Rome, the Pope himself will tell him where to get off.
You don't seem to know your friends from your enemies, Mr. Galileo.
I know who is in power.
Well, good luck to you.
What is the Cardinal Inquisitor doing in Florence?
I don't know. He was not disrespectful.
The Lord Chamberlain.
His Highness had hoped to find time for you, Mr. Galileo. Unfortunately, he has to leave immediately to judge the parade at the Riding Academy. On what business did you wish to see His Highness?
I wanted to present my book.
How are your eyes today?
So. With His Highness's permission, I'm dedicating...
Your eyes are a matter of great concern to His Highness. Could it be that you have been looking too long and too often through your marvelous tube?
Father, I'm afraid.
Don't show your feelings. We're not going home. We're going to the glass cutters. I've arranged with him to have a cart ready to take us away at any time.
Mr. Galileo?
Don't look round.
Mr. Galileo, His Highness has just charged me to inform you that the Florentine court can no longer oppose the request of the Holy Inquisition to interrogate you in Rome. The carriage of the Holy Inquisition is waiting.
No! Oh, those shuffling feet.
Doctors of all the faculties,
representatives of all the religious orders of the entire clergy, who have come believing with childlike faith in the word of God as set forth in the scriptures, who have come to hear your holiness confirm their faith. And your holiness is really going to tell them that the Bible can no longer be regarded as the alphabet of truth?
I would not set myself up against the multiplication table, no.
It is what these people say, that it is only the multiplication table. Their cry is, the figures compel us. But where do the figures come from? Plainly they come from doubt. These people doubt everything. Can society stand on doubt instead of on faith? You are my master. And I doubt whether that is a good arrangement. This is your house, your wife. I doubt whether they shouldn't be mine. After the plague, after the new war, and after the unparalleled disaster of the Reformation, your dwindling flock is looking to its shepherd. And now these worms of mathematicians choose this moment to turn their tubes upon the sky and announce that your holiness is not the best advice by the heavens either.
This man is the greatest physicist of our time. He is the life of Italy, not just some crank.
Would we have had to arrest him otherwise? Aristotle, whom these renegades otherwise regard as a dead dog, said, if the shuttle were to weave by itself, masters would no longer need apprentices, nor lords servants. Well, they believe this time's come. This evil man knows what he's doing when he writes his books, not in Latin, but in the language of iron founders and fishwives.
Well, it's certainly not in the best of taste. I'll mention it to him.
The seaports of northern Italy keep insisting they must have Galileo star charts. Well, we shall have to give in. There are material interests involved.
But the star charts are based on his heretical teachings. We cannot damn the teachings and still use the star charts.
Well, we cannot do otherwise.
Oh, those shuffling feet make me nervous.
May they be more telling than my words, Your Holiness. Shall all these go from you with doubt in their hearts?
But this man has friends. What about France? What about the Viennese court? They will call the church a cesspool of defunct ideas. Keep your hands off him.
Well, actually, we shouldn't have to go very far. He's a man of the flesh. Oh, he cave in very quickly.
Oh, he likes eating, drinking, and thinking more than any man I ever knew. He gets pleasure out of everything. Even his thinking is sensual. He indulges in thinking bouts. He can never say no to an old wine or a new idea. I don't want any condemnation of physical facts. I don't want to hear any battle cries of church, 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 reason, reason, reason. I gave him leave to write his book on condition. It ended by saying the last word is not with science, but with faith. He has complied.
But how? His book shows a simpleton propounding the opinions of Aristotle and an intelligent man expressing Galileo's own views. And who makes the concluding remark, Your Holiness?
What? Who states our opinion?
Not the intelligent one.
Oh, these shuffling feet are intolerable. Has the whole world come to me? At the very most, he may be shown the instruments.
That will be enough, Your Holiness. Mr. Galileo understands machinery.
Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen. Ave Maria,
23 days.
benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
The Pope hasn't even granted him an audience.
Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria.
No more scientific discussions.
The discourses, the sum of his findings will never be finished. They'll kill him.
Do you really think so?
He'll never recant.
Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen.
You know how when you lie awake at night,
Benedicta tu in mulieribus,
your mind will fasten onto one thing?
Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis, nunc et in hora mortis.
Last night I kept thinking if only they'd let him take his little stone in with him. The appeal to reason pebble that he always carries in his pocket.
In the room they'll be taking him to, people don't wear pockets.
They won't dare. And if they do, he'll never recant.
How can they beat the truth out of a man who gave his sight to see?
Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis, nunc et in hora mortis.
Maybe they can't.
Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum.
She is praying that he will recant.
Leave her alone.
Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro
She doesn't know whether she's on her head or her heels since they talk to her.
benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater Dei.
They brought her confessor from Florence.
Mr. Galileo will be here soon. He may need a bed.
Has he been released?
Mr. Galileo is expected to recant at 5 o'clock. As soon as he recants, the big bell of Santa Maria will be rung, and the complete text of his recantation publicly announced.
I don't believe it.
Mr. Galileo will be brought here to the back of the embassy to avoid the crowds collecting in the street.
Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus.
The moon is an earth and has no light of its own.
Ave Maria, gratia
Venus has no light of its own either. Like the earth, it moves round the sun. 4 moons revolve round Jupiter, which is as far away as the fixed stars and not fixed to any crystal sphere. The sun is the center of the universe and immovable. The earth is not the center and is not immovable.
He was the man who proved it.
A man can't unsee what he has seen.
Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena.
Well, it's 5 o'clock.
Benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen.
Telling the truth.
Benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro
No
nobis,
bell.
nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus.
No bell.
Benedictus fructus ventris.
It's after the hour.
Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Amen. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu in mulieribus, et benedictus fructus ventris tui.
He hasn't.
Sancta Maria Mater Dei, ora pro nobis, nunc et in hora
He hasn't.
Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tu.
He held firm.
Et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Sancta Maria Mater
It's all right.
Dei, ora pro nobis, nunc et in hora mortis nostri. Ave Maria, gratia plena
It's all right.
benedicta tu in mulieribus.
So, force isn't everything. Stupidity isn't invincible. Man is steadfast in the face of death.
June the 22nd, 1633, the dawn of the age of reason. I wouldn't have wanted to go on living if he'd recanted.
I didn't say anything, but I was in agony.
Oh, ye of little faith!
I was sure. I was sure.
It would have been as if the day had turned back to night again.
As if the mountain said, I am water.
Oh, thank God!
Downtrodden humanity can lift its head, for one man has stood up and said no!
The great bell of Sancta Maria. He is not damned.
I, Galileo Galilei, teacher of mathematics and physics at the University of Florence, do hereby publicly renounce my teaching that the sun is the center of the universe and motionless, and the earth is not the center and not motionless. I forswear this teaching with a sincere heart and unfaded faith, and I abjure, condemn, and execrate this and all other errors and heresies contrary to the teaching of Holy Church.
So, the mountain turned to water. I can't look at him. Tell him to go away! Steady. He saved his big gut!
Get him a drink.
I can walk. Just help me a little. Unhappy is the land that has no heroes.
Incorrect. Unhappy is the land that needs a hero.
I was told to deliver this.
I didn't order a goose.
I was told to say it was from someone who was passing through.
Someone who was passing through sent you this.
What is it?
Can't you see?
No. A goose. Any name?
No.
I'll eat the liver. Have it cooked with an apple and an onion.
Tell them to cook the liver with an apple and a little onion. We ought to get the eye doctor for Father. He couldn't see what it was.
Has he started to write again?
No. You know he's been dictating his book to me. I gave you pages 131 and 132. They were the last.
He's an old fox.
You ought to have been able to see that goose.
You were standing in my light.
No, I wasn't. You're straining your eyes playing with that ball.
You may read me some Horace.
We ought to get on with your weekly letter to the Archbishop. I've been told he's very pleased with your cooperativeness.
Where were we?
Paragraph 4.
Read what you have.
The position of the Church in the matter of the unrest at Genoa. I agree with the opinion of Cardinal Spelletti on the matter of the unrest amongst the Venetian bell rope makers.
Yes. I agree with the opinion of Cardinal Spelletti about the unrest among the rope makers. It's better to distribute good soup in the name of charity than to pay more to the bell rope makers. St. Paul says, charity never faileth. How's that?
It's beautiful, Father.
Good. Couldn't be taken as irony.
No.
Good.
The Archbishop will like it. It's so practical.
I trust your judgment. Read it over slowly.
The position of the Church in the matter of the unrest at Genoa. I agree with the opinion of Cardinal Spelletti on the matter of the unrest amongst the Venetian bell rope makers.
I'm sorry to call so late in the afternoon. I'm on my way to Holland. I was asked to see him on my way through, bring the latest news of him. May I go in?
I don't know whether he'll see you. You never came.
Ask.
Is that Andrea?
Yes, I'll send him away.
Bring him in.
Have you been keeping well, Mr. Galileo?
Sit down. What are you doing these days? What are you working on? I heard it was something about hydraulics in Milan.
Fabricius in Amsterdam asked me to visit you and inquire about your health.
I'm very well. I receive every attention.
I'm glad I can report you're in good health.
And you might inform Fabricius that, thanks to the depth of my repentance, I live in comparative comfort and am allowed certain scientific pursuits under clerical supervision.
Yes. We understand the Church is more than pleased with you. Your complete submission has had its effect. Not one single paper expounding a new thesis has been published in Italy since.
Unfortunately, there are countries not under the wing of the Church. I'm afraid the condemned theories are being taught there.
Things are almost at a standstill.
Are they? Nothing from the card in Paris?
Yes. When he heard you had recanted, he put aside his treatise on the nature of light.
I sometimes worry about my assistants whom I led into error. Have they benefited by my example?
In order to carry on working, I have to go to Holland.
Yes.
Federzoni is grinding lenses again, back in some shop.
He doesn't know Latin.
Fulganzio, our little monk, has given up science and returned to the fold.
The church is looking forward to my father's complete spiritual recovery.
Virginia, go and see to the goose.
I don't like that man.
He's harmless. He was his pupil. So now he's his enemy.
I can't think why you've come to unsettle me, Sati. Even as it is, I have my relapses.
And no desire to upset you? What relapses?
I've been writing again. I've finished the discourses.
The discoveries concerning 2 new branches of science. Here.
My superiors aren't stupid. They know ingrained vices can't be cured overnight. I'm allowed ink and paper.
The discourse in the hands of the monks. Amsterdam, London, and Prague are starving for this book.
They locked the pages away as I dictated them. But I copied out each batch at night beforehand. I suppose it's the height of folly to pass it on. You'll find it in the globe. My foolish vanity has prevented me from destroying it up to now. If you were to consider taking it across the border, you'd have to bear the risk.
The Discorsi. It is my opinion that the earth is very noble and admirable by reason of so many and so different alterations and generations which are incessantly made therein.
I had to do something with my time.
This will be the start of a new physics.
Put it under your coat.
And we thought you deserted us. Mine has been the loudest voice against you.
That was as it should be. I taught you science, and I denied the truth.
This changes everything.
Yes?
You hid the truth from the enemy. Even in ethics, you were centuries ahead of us.
Ethics?
We lost our heads. For the crowd at the street corners, we said he'll die, but he'll never surrender. You came back, I surrendered, but I'm alive. We cried, your hands are stained. You say, better stained than empty.
Better stained than empty. New. Sounds realistic. Sounds like me. New science. New ethics.
I, of all people, should have understood. I was 12 when you sold another man's telescope to the Venetian Senate, and then saw you put it to immortal use. You always laughed at heroics. People who suffer bore me, you said. Misfortunes are mainly miscalculations.
I remember.
So, when you agreed to abjure one popular item of your doctrine in 33, I should have known. You were just withdrawing from a hopeless political brawl in order to further the true interests of science.
Which are?
The study of the properties of motion, the mother of machines, which will make the earth so good to live on, we shall have no need of heaven. You got the leisure to write a scientific work which you alone could write. Had you burned at the stake in a blaze of glory, the others would have won.
They have won. Besides, there's no scientific work that only one man can write.
Then why did you recant?
I recanted because I was afraid of physical pain.
It was not a plan.
No, it was not.
In science, only one thing counts: contribution to knowledge. And you have contributed more than any man in 100 years.
Have I? Contributed for whom? Welcome to my gutter, brother scientist and fellow traitor. I sold out. You're a buyer. The first sight of the book. The mouth waters, the curses are drowned. Allowed be our bargaining, whitewashing. Death-fearing community.
Science is not concerned with our personal weakness.
No, my dear Sarti, even in my present situation, I may still be able to give you a few pointers about science. In my spare time, and I've got plenty of that, I've gone over my case. The pursuit of science calls for particular courage. It deals in knowledge distilled from doubt. Our new art of doubting delighted the people. They tore the telescope out of our hands and turned it on their tormentors. Princes, landowners, priests. These men felt the cold eye of science being turned on an age-old poverty that could clearly be got rid of if only they were got rid of themselves. So we are deluged with threats and bribes. But can we cut ourselves off from the people and still remain scientists? The battle to measure the heavens is won by doubt. By credulity, the Roman housewife's battle for milk will be lost again and again. Science-ity is involved in both struggles. What are you scientists working for? The sole aim of science, to my mind, is to lighten the toil of a human existence. If you give way to coercion, your progress must be a progress away from humanity. The gulf between you and humanity might grow so wide that the response to your exaltation at some new achievement could be a universal howl of horror. As a scientist, I had a unique opportunity. In my day, astronomy emerged into the marketplace. At that particular time, if one man had put up a fight, it might have had vast repercussions. I've come to the conclusion, Sati, that I was never in real danger. For a time, I was as strong as the authorities, and I surrendered my knowledge to the powers that be, to use it, not use it, abuse it, just as they saw fit. I betrayed my calling. No man who does what I have done can be tolerated in the ranks of science.
You have been received into the ranks of the faithful, Father.
I must eat now. You're teaching now yourself. Can you afford to take such a hand as mine? Someone who was passing through today sent me a goose. Still enjoy eating.
Regarding your opinion of the author we discussed, I don't know the answer, but I cannot believe that your savage analysis is the last word.
Thank you, sir.
We don't like visitors from the past. They disturb him.
any idea who could have sent the goose?
Not Andrea.
No, perhaps not. How's the night?
Clear.
And now, good folks, the story's done. The great book has its freedom won. But we hope you keep in mind, you and I are left behind. Keep the light of science bright. Kindle it and use it right. Lest it be a flame to fall downward to consume us all. To consume us all.